Hello and thank you for joining us. This is Health Matters on Channels Television. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. The world now has a record of more than 237 million confirmed COVID-19 cases. By Friday, October the 8th, the death toll was over 4.8 million. In Nigeria, there are more than 207,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19, more than 195,000 recoveries, and 2,743 deaths. Globally, over 6.4 billion COVID-19 vaccines have been administered, while in Nigeria, over 5 million have got a first shot, and over 2.3 million people are now fully vaccinated. And now to the news. The buzz of this time. The world has finally, after centuries, got a malaria vaccine. The World Health Organization has recommended the widespread use of RTSS, or Mosquirix, in sub-Saharan children where there is a moderate to high infestation of the Plasmodium falciparum malaria parasite. Malaria is still a primary cause of childhood illness and death in sub-Saharan Africa. According to the Apex Health Body, more than 260,000 African children under the age of 5 die from malaria annually, more than COVID. Mosquirix's effectiveness at preventing severe cases of malaria in children is about 30%. My guest in the house today is a consultant medical parasitologist, malariologist, and professor at the College of Medicine of the University of Lagos. He is also the Director, Center for Malaria Research at UNILAG and consultant to WHO on malaria. I have in the studio Professor Wellington Oyibo. You are welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much and good afternoon.
Everybody's over the moon about this vaccine. Centuries, people have been looking for something for malaria. So after all the excitement, the first thing that occurred to me is, why did it take so long?
Thank you very much. Why did it take so long for the malaria vaccine to be validated? What we are talking about now is a very stubborn parasite. A parasite that can change its form, and because it can do that so cleverly, it has been a successful artful dodger. And of course, as you can see, the coverage of just 30%, it shows that it's still on top of its work. So we have a machine we are dealing with as a parasite, and those unique structure of the Plasmodium falciparum has made it far difficult and made it one of the most expensive and long journey in vaccine production history in the world. So that's it for you, the parasite, and then not much about the man, but mostly about the parasite and the difficulties around how it can be pinned down with an effective vaccine.
With the COVID-19 vaccines, we're talking about 95% effectiveness, 81%, 82% effectiveness, and people were like, after some time it drops to 50. Not so effective, we need a booster. But 30% in malaria and everybody is dancing. Don't we need to do more?
Yes, of course we have to do more. Well, you still have to look at the requirements. There are other possibilities. You have interventions for malaria. For COVID, of course, not many therapeutic agents were available or are available to do that. So the vaccine became a choice because malaria, one, is preventable.
Yes.
Number two is treatable.
Okay.
And the path to preventing COVID, well, the use of masks, but not as clear as the preventable aspects for malaria.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have therapeutic medicines for malaria. So you can see, of course, you have other interventions which you can use, whether you're using long-lasting insecticide-treated nets, whether you're using chemoprevention in children. These are known to work. And that's the difference. Of course, you can look at the kind of inequity around research. COVID came as a global thing, so almost everybody.
So there was a lot of money to push into it.
Yeah, so a big, energy that was spent around that. But somehow, just few players have done so much in maintaining the momentum towards the development of a malaria vaccine. Meanwhile, of course, in most of the key places in the world, you don't have malaria there. Okay.
Okay. The WHO talks about a long road still to go.
Sure.
That this is just the beginning. What does this journey, what could it look like?
Yes. Again, I'm an optimist. And then when you are optimistic, you begin to look at areas around how you can get to your endpoints. There is an endpoint, really. There's a global malaria strategy, 2016 to 2030, that gives a picture of where countries should be going. And of course, in many countries, they are working towards a pre-elimination agenda, elimination agenda. Okay, now the optimism is that there are really up to simple elements that can be deployed to prevent malaria. And what we're saying is that those measures should be adhered to. Yes, if we're dancing about malaria vaccine, it's just one of those. You just remember too that in this same announcement, we're not talking about a comprehensive package. We're not saying that the vaccine is a blockbuster solution to malaria. In fact, right now, in the implementation of the strategy, and for all the trials that we have done up till 2019, and of course the other, implementation, project that was done, it was still based on the use of other interventions.
Which are the
use of long-lasting nets, spraying, effective case management, where it has to be applied. So both for prevention and then of course for treatment, those ones are at top scale. So if we want those results, that you're preventing death in 4 out of 10 children, we must be up to our game. And that's the reality. And it is doable.
This 4 out of 10 children, preventing deaths in 4 out of 10 children, is that with the added,
with the added of the vaccine?
Of the vaccine.
Yes. Now, if you want to unpack, that cluster randomized study had to be done, areas where you did not use that. But it's not possible, ethically, to say you will do that and not use other interventions. Because the other interventions is like a constant. Whatever you do,
you must use that.
You must use those interventions.
But they said this vaccine was used in children who don't use nets.
Yeah, but see, at those initial trial phases, in terms of the implementation, they used nets. In the trial, they used nets, they used the interventions. And in the implementation that was started 2 years ago, they all use those interventions. And right now, the caveats, which we all must understand as we try to sing Hosanna, is that the interventions must be available, they must be accessible, and we must pay very strict attention to them. And not focus, of course, it's true. Remember, as a country, we have at least 70,000 to 90,000 deaths due to malaria every year. Just Nigeria alone? Yes, just Nigeria. And we have the highest burden. Over 260,000 deaths in Africa. All of this, you're having close to between 70,000 to 90,000 from Nigeria. Okay. So it means that people will say, but why rejoice about 30% coverage? Yes. We must rejoice because one life matters. And if you really look at it, children who die from malaria, the infants and the children, sometimes it's so dramatic. And nobody wants to face that horror. That's a child that was playing with some fever that the mother did not recognize could be dead by the time she comes from market. That's correct. That's what malaria does. Yeah, and then of course, even at consultation, the child wasn't taken there on time, the child is gone. So when you look at, and that's why this discussion must be taken by everyone seriously, whether it's by the corporate group or others who are, supporting disease prevention, like COVID. Severe malaria in children is dramatic. It's as dramatic, of course, they still have the bout of respiratory distress. Yes. They still have those. Fever. So, respiratory, in the sense that you still have difficulty in breathing before they die, yes, as you still have in COVID. But these are children who have in fact, before, difficulty in breathing was almost diagnosed as malaria. Of course. Your parents will say, and this is long malaria. Time, of course, yes. So attention must be paid to these people of the future generation. And then if you look at the numbers, we must sort out the inequity around how we do that. So if you say, yes, I agree, there's a vaccine, there's a for COVID, but cholera is there, malaria is there, HIV is there, TB is there, and many other things that we have. So the WHO says
it looks like the vaccine is going to be relatively cheap.
It'll be cost effective.
But when you think of the millions of people who may need to be vaccinated, children, there's a lot of money involved. How is this money going to be sourced?
Yes, but on top of this, we must look at the opportunities. The opportunities are very important. For a while, for a 200 million populated country, we have to play a role. Now, of course, GSK had to outsource production of the vaccine to an Indian biotech company. Over time, ours is to see where we are located in that. Vaccinology is a science.
And probably bring it down here.
Yes, of course, for over time for local production. And the beauty about that means that, of course, we do have vaccine production platform in Nigeria.
Yes.
But these ones have not been overly, effective for a while. You can rejig it, and that's how it is done. So I would say that's the opportunity that over time, the technology for large-scale production is always very beautiful because the more you produce, the cheaper it becomes.
Yes.
And for us here is to see how that technology is now domiciled in the country.
Do you happen to know how many times a child must take this vaccine for it to be effective?
Yes. So, of course, from the trial, those who took up to the 4 booster doses did well. So, basically 4 times. And for those who took just 1 dose or 2 doses, of course, in addition to the other interventions, did very well. And of course, unlike what we're seeing in COVID, routine immunization process will take care of these children. So they'll still do that. And of course, they have data already, how the vaccine works in addition to other routine immunizations. So it's going to go through that pipeline. And of course, with that, we should have good outcomes. But though as a country, the structure to do those implementation will have to be in place.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, could it be that whatever excluded us from the pilot will be a problem in implementing this, vaccination process? Well,
several factors led to that process. But we know right now there's a malaria vaccine implementation strategy. And if you look at that strategy, it gives you the pipeline. And as a country, we can adopt this. Okay, one of the things to do is to see where we're starting from the implementation. You have to learn to do that work in certain areas. And with lessons learned, you can expand that. So I think that's how it's going to work. And it shouldn't be a problem. It should be an advantage for us in really building the system for large-scale use of vaccines like this.
I heard Dr. Tedros say something that confused me a bit. He said this vaccine was developed in Africa by African scientists. And then I hear GSK. Is there a mistake somewhere?
Well, I can say that, of course, there's still this discussion that the top places where malaria vaccine research is done is always at the non-malaria endemic countries. So we know the big places where it is done because it's expensive.
Yes.
Africa do not have the structure for those phases, basic, research should be done. Of course, we know that the implementing institutions for the trials, clinical trial sites and all of those were all in Africa. And of course, in the spirit of collaboration, you have A and we don't have, you have B, and we can collaborate. So you do stuff somewhere, you come together to do it. But again, the point here we should make here is the need for the investments in this platform. And it's critically important. If you have this platform for vaccine production, note that it's not only going to be used for humans, it's going to be used for animals. And it could really come as a big bang as a country where we really need to do things in country. So the call is for that investment to be done. That investment for the...
We should own what is ours.
Yes, basically own and be able to use to address issues when it comes. I mean, for example, we had Lassa fever killing everyone. The health workers and all of this. Nothing could be done. It was killing. The figures are there. But the COVID was coming in a way that looks as if, hey, what's going on? Country response to Lassa fever prevention or even whatever it is was not as strong. It wasn't forthcoming. And that's the reason that if you have a platform that is well established, you can use it across multiple diseases. Then we can respond. I mean, areas where you can't even have shipping going on because there's pandemic, all logistics are down. What happens to those countries? It must be good lessons learned.
Yes.
Not only for government, but for all of us who plan.
Okay, let's quickly go on a break
Go
now.
ahead, thank you.
We're going on a short break. When we come back, the discussion continues. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's Health Matters on Channels Television, and we're talking about malaria and the malaria vaccine. To ask any questions about malaria and the vaccine, the number to call is 0808 054 2233. It should be appearing on your screen right now. Dr. Oyibo, let me ask, for some time, scientists have said that the malaria, well, not response, the results have reached a plateau, that they didn't seem to be making any headway with it. What was the cause?
Well, I would say for a country, without globalizing it, we're making good progress. You can see every 5 years, the country does the malaria indicator survey. And from those survey, we continue to see reductions. In 2010, the national survey then showed that the prevalence of malaria in Nigeria was 42%. And then in 2015, that prevalence dropped to 27%.
So the interventions are working?
But interventions are working, and maybe other things, of course. And of course, in 2018, it got to 23%.
Oh, that's
As we speak right now, the National Malaria Elimination Program is at the verge of conducting another survey again. And hopefully, we can see it's reducing. But again, what it shows too is that the prevalence of malaria is not the same across the country, across the zones of the country and the states.
Okay.
So you have some states really where we have not seen much reduction, like in Kebbi states, that has remained around between 55 and 60% since that 2010. But of course, Lagos, we continue to see, very lower prevalence of about,
Probably because you use nets a lot and spray a
Where
lot.
there's urban area, there are different reasons why you're having those. But Lagos has the lowest right now, of course, River States and some other states in the southern part of Nigeria.
Okay, let's quickly take this call from Barnabas. Hello, Barnabas, calling from Delta. Are you there?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Barnabas. What's your question?
Okay, considering how long malaria has been in existence, I just want to find out, did the research for the COVID vaccine have any contribution to us actually finding a vaccine for malaria as well?
Whether he's asking whether the COVID has anything to do with us finding the malaria vaccine.
No, not really. The journey towards this vaccine we're talking about has been on for 30 years.
Yes.
And then the peculiarity of the parasite that causes it.
That is some parasite that keeps escaping.
Yes, it keeps escaping. And of course there's a bar by which you can really allow a threshold with which you have to attain in terms of coverage and protection, that you can say you can approve the vaccine for large-scale use. But you can see at 30% coverage, what we say is still better to have something than not have
nothing
anything.
at all.
Yeah.
And you have pointed out that it's not an all-exclusive thing.
No,
it
it's
must be used with the
other
nets,
interventions,
the spraying, and every other intervention to be effective enough.
And we have a role to do the practical ones. Just keeping your environments clean and use the nets at your own household level is one measure we all have to take.
But it should save tens of thousands of lives.
It should save. Of course, by the time you do that, there's an impact on transmission. It means that the mosquito would not have any, be able to bite anyone and nothing to transfer.
Oh,
that's good. Let's take Ada. Hello, Ada.
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, Ada from Jos. Good afternoon, doctor. My take on this is this. No matter the vaccine we're having for malaria, environmental and personal hygiene is very, very important. If we allow the have an environment where we can breed the mosquitoes, I doubt very much if this vaccine will work efficiently. Then I want to find out from doctor, is it only restricted to children? That is the vaccine.
Good question, Ada. Thank you.
That's my question, yes. God bless you.
Yes, so our environment, that's what I just said. We all, let's leave government out of it. If you did the primary, interventions, use the nets and keep your environments clean, you've done one great job. And we know that the mosquitoes will breed in those open cups left somewhere around your house or wherever water collects. You keep the environments clean and use the nets, whether you're having screens or... of course, we know in certain places it's working if you did that. Now, the other one concerning the vaccines that you talked about, yes, it's for children. It's for children. And it's going to be rolled out during the routine immunization.
0 to 5 years old.
Yes, 0 to 5 years. Of course, it means by the time they are getting to that point, they should have actually taken the fourth dose. Okay,
so there's this vaccine that the University of Oxford is doing called R21, Matrix M.
Yes.
77% effective. Why has it not been approved?
Yeah, it doesn't. I can tell you even the process for the RTSS approval and the kind of study that has to be done. The R21, we have to wait that kind of study as well.
Let me just put you on hold and take Olabode calling from Lagos. What's your question?
Yes, my question is, some people are saying that this new vaccine that is just being discovered is just like a means to put an end to all those criticisms that people are saying. So many senators say malaria has been for years, for ages, and no vaccine has been developed. Why is it that COVID came in less than a year, vaccine has come? So this vaccine now, is this a way to say that okay, it's a breakthrough, or is just indeed a breakthrough?
Thank you so much. The doctor will answer you. People have been saying that.
Yeah.
That, it's just a way of covering the shame. COVID has so many vaccines and malaria has been with us forever.
Yeah. So the response to health issues, of course, globally, the design and the agenda is to completely roll back malaria because it's a distraction.
Yeah.
This is a preventable disease and it's a treatable disease. And that's for that.
So of course, it's not going to get as much attention.
Yes.
Because COVID came without a solution.
It came with its drama.
A lot of drama.
So, and it came with the way dramatic death and issues around that. And of course, it came again with all the hype we saw with those. And those are distinctions we should begin to say. I always say that if we provide the kind of attention that we should provide for advocacy for malaria, we will hit it down. We will hit it down, just getting people to do the primary thing within their homes. So there's a kind of inequity around this at all points. But again, the organisms are different. And they have to follow that approach.
Here's hoping that we will address all those inequities. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Dr. Oyibo, Professor Oyibo. And thank you so much for letting us come into your homes today. Have a wonderful day. I am Mary Alale Yusuf.